Thank you, Gary. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the People's United Bank post-game show. I'm Justine Ward alongside Vin Parisi and Tariq Turner. UConn beating Cornell by a final score of 91-74, their first game of the season at the Excel Center, as the Huskies improved to 4-1 on the season. And, guys, this was really a big opportunity for the Huskies. They had a big couple of games at MSG. What did you like about the way they bounced back in this game?
I like that there wasn't an emotional letdown. You know, you come off the back-to-back big games and all of the juice and the crowd and the attention from Madison Square Garden. Now you're coming back to a slow, methodical, organized team like a Cornell. You heard Dan Hurley talk about Princeton offense. First time his guys seeing that. First time playing in the Excel Center. But they got after it defensively. Lots of guys, 5 double-digit scores offensively, but forcing 19 turnovers.
And I thought forcing the turnovers, their defensive pressure on the perimeter is really what set the tone. And you know, when they can get out and run and score off their turnovers, they forced 19 turnovers, scored 25 points off of forced turnovers, then they're getting a complete game because they're not just a half-court team. They're an up-tempo team that can score in transition. Those 4 guards really got them going with their pressure, and that's what got them to win.
You guys both mentioned it, a season-high 19 turnovers for the Huskies. What do you think was working well for them in transition?
I think their man pressure. I think their man pressure and the fact that this isn't a team that doesn't want to turn you over and then walk the basketball up. This is a team that wants to turn you over and get out and run, run, run. This has been Dan Hurley's philosophy at Wagner, at Rhode Island. It's going to be the same thing here. I mean, they got up, they extended their ball pressure. Listen, I think they're going to have inconsistent offensive nights. Danny's admitted that. But I think one thing, when we get into American Athletic Conference play, you're going to hear every head coach talk about Hurley's on-the-ball defense with this group.
But that's a staple of his recruiting and a staple of his philosophy as a coach. Ball pressure, suffocating ball pressure, starts at the top of the defense, and then the wings are out, guarding, denying. It took them a few minutes to settle into the back cuts by Cornell, but as Coach Hurley said, once they got the sense of timing on that, they didn't get beat anymore, and they were able to get out and push the tempo, which is how they want to play.
And this team has a lot of depth. It seems every game they're getting a big contribution from somebody different. What did you see from Christian Vital tonight? Could this be his breakout game?
Well, I thought he was excellent. I mean, he hasn't scored the ball like he has last year, but he got out and he made some shots in transition. He was really good defensively. He had a couple runouts, and I think he's another guy that can score on the ball or off the ball, very good in ball screen action. A big guard at 6'3", 6'4", and very crafty, plays loose, plays with confidence, a lot like Jalen Adams, had his 3-ball going tonight. And, you know, he's one of those 3 guys in the starting lineup that can get you 20 any given night. Tonight was probably his breakout game of the season.
Yeah, interchangeable parts. I mean, so much we talked about Tariq Gilbert down at Madison Square Garden. Jalen Adams, of course, is going to be the constant. Should be right there for Player of the Year if he brings it each and every night. But you saw it tonight. Vital and Adams, top 2 guys in terms of shot attempts for Dan Hurley. So you're going to see different perimeter guys complimenting Adams, I think, on given nights.
Not a bad 1-2 punch there. Let's take a look at the stats from this game. And as we talked about, the Huskies limited the turnovers. They also created some opportunities out of turnovers. They've been shooting pretty well with 51% from the field tonight. And they also won the battle of the boards. And let's send it back out to the Excel Center. Gary Apple and Tim Welsh have their thoughts. Hey, guys.
Justine, thank you so much. I love the fact that Connecticut shared the basketball the way they did. 5 in double figures. That's got to make Danny Hurley a very happy guy.
Well, he came out of the Iowa games and said specifically that with the ball stuck, we dribbled it way too much, didn't go from side to side, and that's not the way they play. They have the 4 guards or the 4 spots filled on the perimeter, and they usually, when they're playing well, move the ball quickly from one side to the other and look to attack get that open alleys to the rim. And tonight they did that, but really it was the real part of tonight's game was their defense. They got up and made Cornell uncomfortable from the get-go. They got out in transition. They made they pushed the ball up the court. They had their heads up. They really do a nice job of hitting the open man and hitting ahead. And they're playing unselfishly with the star player, too. Jalen Adams, he's playing unselfishly, but he's playing aggressive right from the locker room to the tip.
Well, one of the things that UConn has shown this year is the ability to get out and run. Now, they've scored an average of 82 points a game coming into tonight's game, and tonight they went over 90. How much of that, though, is predicated on their defense and the fact that they're getting out off the defensive side and then running the other way.
Well, I was amazed tonight. They even they were stealing dribble handoffs,
yes.
and that's you back off those dribble handoffs because you're afraid of people going back door and opening up the floor a little bit. But as the game wore on, they really wore out Cornell with their aggression, and this is the way they're going to have to play games. This is the way they're built for the season. It's got to start with their defense. It's got to start with their guards. They don't have the depth up front or the ability or the experience or the actual guys that they can throw the ball to on a nightly basis to dominate in the paint. So it's got to start with their guards, and they do a good job of recognizing it, and their guards do a good job of mixing it up on the glass
yes.
too. When you play 4 guards, you're worried about getting beat not only around the rim but on the glass, and they do a good job of getting feisty on the boards.
Dan Hurley was really fired up during the shoot-around earlier today, really on his team. He did not love the way they played against Iowa. Got the win against Syracuse at Madison Square Garden, and he felt they sort of looked at their newspaper clippings and their headlines and their telephones and their smartphones and everything else that goes along with a big win, and he felt that they needed to get refocused. Did you see that laser focus tonight?
It's a work in progress, and it's not only how you react to a losing streak, but how do you react to winning, and that's maybe more importantly because they don't understand how to win on a consistent basis yet, and he's trying to teach them that. And these type of games are really gut check type games where everyone thinks you're going to win, you're just going to roll in here and just beat Cornell easily. Well, we've seen in college basketball in general that you can get upset in these type of games, and so he wanted him ready every night, and he's building something here, and it doesn't stop with one win in the Garden. He's got to keep moving forward.
You're right about that. Last time I checked, I saw Furman beat Villanova, so early in the season, things like that do happen. Let's send it back to the studio. Justine, take it away back in New York.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And you heard them talking about Coach Hurley being upset after that loss, wanting a lot from his team tonight. I think fiery was the word he used. Did he get a fiery performance tonight?
I think he did. You see it by the defensive pressure and the fact that they're able to get out and run. Not having letdowns is something that Dan Hurley is huge on in terms of his personal coaching philosophy. You look back on his time at the University of Rhode Island, they didn't lose many games that they were supposed to easily win, meaning coming into your home court and taking a game from you when you're the underdog. I mean, we think of the last couple of years, the team got comfortable. Wagner, Yale, Northeastern. We could think back to games where they got, nailed. And it's easy to have a letdown when you're coming off all of that buzz from Madison Square Garden. And sometimes you gotta have that motivation inside and will yourself through it.
No question. And as Coach Hurley, any coach, but especially Coach Hurley, you got to be worried about how do you deal with success and how do you deal with expectation. And obviously, beating a team like Syracuse in the Garden with the buzz, the smartphone era, the social media era, you don't know how your guys are going to respond, especially a team like this where Danny Hurley is still getting to know his players. How do they respond to positive press clippings? And those are the kinds of things that make you a little more paranoid, a little more on edge. And this shoot-around was all business. They were ready to play from the minute the ball went up, and you saw it by the defensive pressure. The mentality was there, and they were ready to play from start to finish.
Well, we have much more to break down on the People's United Bank postgame show after the Huskies win over Cornell. A big night from Christian Vital, 21 points. You'll also hear from Jalen Adams and head coach Dan Hurley on the win. We're back after this. The highlights, Cornell at UConn, Dan Hurley getting his team ready to face the Big Red. Early first half, Cornell giving the Huskies some trouble here. Jimmy Boeheim with the backdoor pass to Josh Warren for the layup. Hurley not pleased with what he's seeing there. Later on, Jake Kuhn, another backdoor feed here to Terrence McBride for another layup. UConn needing to regroup after trailing by 4. Huskies now down by 1. Tariq Gilbert drives, gets the bucket off the glass. UConn takes the lead. Later, off the Cornell turnover, Terrence Smith takes it in the lane, gets the soft jumper to go. UConn up 5. Still first half, Huskies up 11. Jalen Adams with the crossover hits the jumper.
Oh, this is just pretty, as our Gary Apple likes to say. The feathery touch.
Love it. Huskies with a healthy lead in the first half. The freshman Brennan Adams drives, gets the bucket and the foul. UConn with a 48-33 at the half. So we go to the second half. UConn up 57-39. Christian Vital with the steal. Takes it himself for the dunk. Hangs on the rim a little.
Got lucky he didn't get a tee, but quick hands and great defensive pressure by Vital. And a lot of UConn's points came off of forced turnovers. That's the way UConn wants to play.
Later on, Jalen Adams with the ball, takes it for himself. Nice lay in here. UConn up 20. Now Huskies up 15. Smith brought a lot of energy in the second half with the steal here. Breaks away for the dunk. He would go on a little run of his own here from the top of the key. He makes a move to the hoop. Gets the circus shot. Smith 12 points. Now 4 minutes to go. UConn cruising here. Gilbert with the turnover. Vital with the alley-oop pass to Adams for the dunk. Let's see it. Woof. Adams with 21 points. Moments later, Vital here with the steal. A lot of forcing a lot of turnovers alone for the big slam. He had 19 points. UConn wins 91-74. And we are going to hear from Maria Marino, who is with Jalen Adams. 21 points, 3 assists, 2 steals on the night.
Jalen, the backcourt as a whole was cooking tonight. What was working so well?
I think everybody just playing their game, playing free. Like I said before, coach just gives us crazy confidence to just believe in our game. And we're just out there creating for each other, playing off each other. So I think we just did a good job getting to the rim and just finishing.
Specifically for you, what were you seeing from the defense that allowed you to execute?
I think just once they kind of switched out of that matchup zone, once they went man-to-man, that's kind of like a green light to me. Get a couple ball screens and then kind of just play my game. It's like playing back at home at the park.
Well, what's your overall feeling now that you're back in the win column?
I'm happy now. Before, I was a little angry for a couple days. And I think we responded well. I think we came in here and showed that we're angry with the loss to Iowa. So it was a good way to bounce back.
Do you feel you guys brought the energy tonight, and how?
Yeah, I think we brought the energy, most definitely. I think it started with our defensive end, on the defensive end. I think we didn't allow them to kind of just move at their pace. I think we sped them up, we got turnovers, and we kind of got back to our ways, back to our identity.
All right, thanks, Jalen. Congrats. Back to you guys.
Jalen Adams with our Maria Marino. He talked a lot about things being started on the defensive end and then turning into offense. You also heard from Coach Hurley, who said that after a loss, you really want your best player to step up. And he said that Jalen Adams did that tonight. How did he do that?
Well, could you tell that the best player also buys into the coach's philosophy? He talked about being miserable after a loss for a few days. He talked about defense. I mean, this is like Danny Hurley is doing the interview. So you could tell Jalen Lindsey's bought in, but you also got to bring it between the lines. And the fact that he bounced back, as you mentioned, Justine, your best players has to come through. This is why he's preseason first team and why he has every shot to be player of the year in this league. But it's bringing it every single night. Dan Hurley preached to him in the offseason, you can't have off nights. You can't be inconsistent. So these are good growth factors as conference play approaches.
And you can tell early on that Jalen has embraced that leadership role. He wants that pressure of being the guy. He expects to do well and lead this team. And the thing I said earlier at the halftime segment was he didn't wait to get going. He got himself going, looked for a shot early, and they need him to be that guy. Even if he's missing shots, his aggressiveness is a catalyst to the rest of the team, and I thought that was a good sign. He has to take 16 to 17 shots a game for this team to go far.
You know what else is a good sign? That he said that Coach Dan Hurley gives them confidence. Does that say to you that he feels the trust?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And especially if you're a guard in this system. I mean, we've seen different guys getting looks at different times and different guards being able to always get that green light from Dan Hurley. So it's going to be Adams. There's going to be nights where it's going to be some of these other guys. Yes, the front court has to bring it. They're going to need some balance. But this is going to be a four-guard oriented team by the time conference play rolls around.
And you can tell that they really enjoy this system of playing. They have a lot of freedom. They have a lot of flexibility to kind of attack and pick their spots. You don't see guys going out for bad shots. The only reason they're going to go out is if they're not playing hard or they're not guarding. And I didn't see that tonight by anyone, primarily those four guards being the core group. And that four-guard group is going to be the guys that they depend on more than anyone to go deep in the season.
So a lot of good things tonight. We are just getting going on the People's United post-game show. A great steal and dunk from Terrence Smith. We're going to hear from Coach Dan Hurley ahead. But before we go to break, here is who was lighting up the boards, presented by Connecticut Lighting Centers. Alterique Gilbert actually leading the team with 5 rebounds. The Huskies out-rebounded Cornell 35-29. And we are going to be right back. mixed in a couple nice threes and some steals as well. Vital, your player of the game. Here's head coach Dan Hurley post-game.
Well, I don't have any notes prepared, so is this a speech? I mean, can we get a table next time? Yeah, to the table. Listen, obviously thrilled to get back on the winning side. I thought the first, I don't know, 8, 10, 12 minutes, were frustrating. I think it took us a while. I think offensively, our confidence just coming out of, the Friday game a little bit. I think we were a little unsure, of ourselves. And then defensively, I think it took a while to kind of get, just get adjusted to the speed of their cuts and what they were trying to do, offensively. Obviously, we turned them over a lot, but didn't really, do a great job of guarding them from the field overall. We'd like to have seen them made less threes too. Our goal is to keep them under 5 threes. We didn't, teams like that, the only way they come in here and beat you is if you give up a lot of threes. So we weren't disappointed in the amount of back cut layups they weren't getting. But again, I thought we kind of took a little step back in terms of we had a chance to really extend it, get into the mid-20s, high 20s, and really blow it open. But we just showed a little bit of immaturity at times out there and allowed them to spurt and go, get it from 21 back to 16, 15, 13. So some good moments, but still a lot of things you got to get better at.
You got a lot out of your guards tonight. I mean, how important is that to be able to do what you need to do in your system?
Yeah, I mean, we have to. It's obviously, I thought Josh, obviously that was a tough game for our bigs to play in, just because there's so many skilled, agile, players they were putting on the court. So it wasn't the easiest game to play centers in like Josh and Eric. But the reality of our season is that if we're going to be successful and surprise people this year in terms of our success, the guards are going to have to, across the board, be consistently really, really good. And Jalen was like an alpha today. I love the way he attacked. And I thought Christian was good. Lost his mind with a shot selection a couple times, but he plays so hard. It doesn't make up for it, but man, I wish he wouldn't do that, because he's a good player and he could be a really winning player because he's got a lot of heart.
Dave, staying on that guard theme, Terran seemed to take over a segment of the game as you guys kind of took over for good in the second half there. Just what did you see from him tonight, and what has he meant to this team overall so far? Yeah, I mean, he's a starter. He's played starter minutes. First half he wasn't very good. Second half he was great. He's been one of, he's probably, in terms of consistency, he's probably been easily our second or third best player so far through 5. I think coming into the game he was third in minutes, third in field goal attempts. He's an integral part. I could easily start him at one of the guard spots. So, but right now, we'll keep him in his role, and because he's going to get starter minutes anyway.
Dan, I know yesterday the things that you talked about were Jalen taking over, and as you mentioned, he was an alpha tonight. He did that. You mentioned the turnovers, cutting him down, and I think he had 1 the first 12 minutes of the game. I mean, as a coach, is that really the number one thing that you look for? Is do you get that response to the things that you're stressing, right? Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's kind of like this. It's, we said this before, like, just coming off like the last year in particular, it was like, we struggled defensively, we struggled offensively, and then we didn't rebound the ball well. So it's not like we're trying to fix like one thing. It's like, it's like a dam almost, where you're just trying to plug holes game by game and emphasizing things and kind of, game to game that you got to kind of plug. And,
you just hope that we can just kind of, as the season goes on, just learn from all these things and just kind of continue to plug these holes. And then, I think eventually we have the potential to have like a real good team. So I just think with us, it's like, we just got to kind of get better, in those three areas, over the course of a long season, because it's only been, again, like 7 months together. It's going to take us a little more time.
Dan.
That was Dan Hurley after the win. We heard him talk there about Terrence Smith and a lot of the energy he brought in the second half. How important is it for your sixth man to bring the energy like that?
Well, it's huge, and as a coach, you want to find someone you can trust and someone that you can rely on. And Terrence Smith, 5 games in, is proving to be a very reliable guy that you can just plug in. And you hear this term sixth starter. Well, he truly is a sixth starter because he's playing starters minutes. It doesn't matter if he's not starting the game. He plays the same kind of style and role as a starter. And when the game is on the line, he's going to be on the court because he's so efficient. He's a two-way player. He's a big guard that can get to the rim. And he has that experience, that mentality where you don't have to really talk to him much. You just know he's going to be efficient. And this is another good game by him, showing what he brings to the table.
Well, you said the right word, efficient. I mean, 6 for 9 in 20 minutes. I mean, listen, the beat writers up there are going to keep associating the number 6 with Terrence Smith and calling him the sixth man. But you heard Danny right there. This guy's going to be one of the top 3 to 4 important guys as part of this program as this season extends. And he was the Atlantic 10 Sixth Man of the Year for a reason, because he does things in spurts in big-time ways.
You also heard Danny Hurley being a little critical. There's some things to work on. He called his team maybe a little bit immature. Why is it so important to him that they really close games out strong?
Well, I think he was talking immaturity more from a winning experience type of way, not an immaturity from, a bunch of freshmen and sophomores running around not knowing what they're doing, because they're not that young. It's about knowing how to close out games. And you look at the record last year, and it's about putting people away and not worrying so much about your opponent.
Well, that's his job as a coach, to really nitpick on the things that they didn't do well so it doesn't get them beat in the following games down the road. And he talked about getting beat on back-cut threes, giving up too many three-point shots. Those are 2 small things that didn't matter tonight, but going down the road when they play teams in their conference play or even Arizona, those plays can get you beat. So he wants to improve each game out and not worry about the score so much, just worry about getting better each game.
A lot of talk about the guard play after this win for UConn. We still have more to do on the People's United Bank post-game show. Biggest guard of the night, though, Jalen Adams with the nice alley-oop there. New Hampshire, 11:30 pregame, 12 p.m. tip-off right here on SNY as the Huskies look to get 5 wins under their belt. So, looking to get that 5th win on the season. How do they build on this win against Cornell?
Yeah, I think you got to stick to your philosophy. And the great thing about November and December is you're preparing against different styles. Syracuse was his own. Iowa was size. Tonight against Cornell was the Princeton offense and backdoor cut. So, these guys are going to start learning. Conference plays about different styles and, how we're going to guard different people. But Dan Hurley gets to learn about his guys each and every day. And all November and December is getting your team to be playing the best basketball as conference play starts.
And also, you just want to keep building. That momentum has to keep building each game out. They come off a strong win tonight. Well, next game, they want to pay attention to detail, do a better job of guarding the 3. Danny Hurley talked about that as something he wasn't happy with, and being more disciplined defensively, not getting back cut on, not giving up layups. Other than that, I think they're going to score the ball. They're going to continue to flourish with their guards. Try to get more production down low. That's something that we'll talk about throughout the season, having that balance between the front court and the back court. And then those are the kinds of things that Danny Hurley is going to emphasize and keep trying to build on as they go deeper in the season.
Stringing those wins, stringing those good things in back-to-back games. Well, guys, that is going to be it for us. For Vin Parisi and Tariq Turner, I'm Justine Ward. Once again, UConn with the 91-74 victory. Have a great night, everybody. Vin and I will see you pretty early on Saturday. Get your coffee.
Boom.
So UConn back in the Nutmeg State, going up against Cornell. First time they're meeting in 54 years. UConn looking to push the tempo at every opportunity. Jalen Adams back into the game, and that is silky smooth for Jalen Adams. Smith backs it out.